Up to now, a vast majority of Jamaican people don't understand that this corruption game that the People's National Party are play with the government is a serious game. Because I want to ask yourself this. Whenever in Jamaican history have you ever heard so much mention of a government being corrupt? For months, all talking point around the government up to the general election was corruption. And we thought this corruption argument would end. But no, it continues same way in the form of trying to challenge the Prime Minister's seat. The PNP made reference in their press conference that they will take the matter to court in regards to the Prime Minister's seat, sparking acts of corruption that the Prime Minister didn't win his seat legitimately, while stating that the government is duly elected. People, we have to understand that right now, the People's National Party are like a wounded dog backed into a corner that hasn't a lot of options. Because you have to understand that every single opposition leader had the benefit to tackle the government on one of three issues. Those three issues are crime, unemployment, or economy. The People's National Party now hasn't had that privilege because all those three avenues are in good standing. So they can't tackle the government on that. So them decide to create their own avenue in the form of corruption, spreading lies that the government is corrupt. Why? Because they believe to themselves that if they spread enough lie of corruption, the people will get out the government for them. And they thought this would work. They thought it would work in the general election in a democratic way, but it did not. The people still chose the government. So they continue the propaganda wheel of corruption, hoping, in my opinion, that the people will topple the government and get out the government for them and they can take power. That's the only thing I'm seeing. That's the only thing I'm seeing why this narrative of propaganda is being pushed. And we have example of this in Indonesia, of information, long-standing information being spread and a government being corrupt. And you see what happened in Indonesia right now. Indonesia is on fire. People have toppled the government. There is no government in place right now in Indonesia. The military had to take over the country. Now they're trying to look someone else to run the country. And this is what happened when propaganda is being spread for a long time. And the People's National Party need to stop, and the government need to take a serious approach to this. Serious approach, because this is dangerous to the Jamaican people and also to our democracy. Blueprinters, I'm going to share a video with you guys on a nationwide program, and then we're going to come and talk a little bit more about this.
On the results of September 3, if I were them.
And I would agree with you with that. And this also brings us into the problem of the West Central St. Andrew count that the People's National Party is suggesting is somehow untoward, again without providing actual information or a basis for that concern. They've floated in the public domain that they want to bring it as far as a court in order to analyze or assess the situation in the Prime Minister's constituency when, if you look at elections gone past now, this matter of the Prime Minister's constituency, there concerns, will he win back his seat, will he not win back his seat? We raise it every election night when it comes to the Prime Minister.
Every election night?
Every time it comes to the Prime Minister's behind, will he at the end of the day catch up? And he always does, because of
where the boxes are coming from.
The peculiarities of where boxes are counted and when they finally arrive at the final counting station. So I've always wondered why this particular instant case, and why it's specifically the Prime Minister's constituency, which is now cause for alarm by the People's National Party. It almost seems as if any attempt is being made to try and delegitimize the election, while out of one side suggesting that we accept the results while challenging them within the same breath.
Yeah, there was a concession speech on the night of September 3rd. I don't know the information as it relates to the claim and what would make up that claim going to the election court, and that would remain to be seen, right? I guess because of my practice, I would never say there is no claim, because I do not know. I do not know.
You have the legal.
Yeah, I do not know. What evidence they have, or what information they have, and they have a legal advisor, and I am certain that together with their legal advisor, they would know how to put together that information, and it must have reached a threshold for them to be considering what they're considering. What I'll say though is, Siobhan, I remember September 3, that election night, and I mean, when Mr. Buchanan was ahead of Andrew Holness, I said, this makes for good cinema, it makes for good theatre, but we all know what's going to happen, right? And again, when you look at the Seawright Garden boxes, for example, once those boxes are counted, then that is when you get the uptick
surge,
Prime Minister,
so to speak,
right? And based on the information we had as well, that night when he was ahead, those boxes were not yet counted when Buchanan was ahead. And then, of course, there was this long pause for like an hour or two for the count of that seat, and then it was completed, and then it was ahead. And I remember saying that night, Siobhan, this is not gonna hold. This is not gonna hold. This is not gonna hold. Because anybody who knows the politics knows that certain boxes coming from certain divisions go one way.
And it's essentially the bread and butter of politics in terms of when we call seats and understand how the voting patterns happen. For example, Central Manchester in the 2020 elections, there was an expectation that based on where the counts were coming from as to whether Bunting would have made it across the finish line versus Rhoda Moy Crawford. And when we actually looked at the analysis as to where the seats had been counted, it was clear that yes, Rhoda was going to take it home that evening. And there are other divisions where we can say the same, similar factions, because we have voting bases in constituencies, even what would consider safe seats. You have specific divisions in those constituencies that might lean JLP, that might lean PNP, and when those are factored in, it will affect the result at the end of the day. So I'm very curious as to what this quibble specifically over the Prime Minister's seat is this term, why it's being raised by the People's National Party. But even more concerning is the dismissal of the observer missions that came to Jamaica and essentially gave their confidence in the electoral process, suggesting that it was free from any intimidation, free from any harassment, and to the better conduct, suggesting that this is something that the region of the Caribbean could take on as to the best practice. Now, that is being mired into these suggestions of increased intimidation and harassment and voter suppression being considered to be wide scale. And we're being compared to Guyana, where their documented concerns over voting fraud and other election irregularities are well known. I don't know why we're being painted in the same light by our own local representatives when others have suggested that we have been well above board in terms of our conduct of these elections.
Yeah, man. Go on.
So I don't think there's any air between us in terms of the discussion on this matter, but I'm curious to see how things go in the coming days.
I've learned throughout this general election period that the PNP tend to create problems over things that are normal, because the PNP want to take the Prime Minister winning his seat to court, that there is irregular activities on how the Prime Minister took the lead. But if you understand how ballots are counted, you would know that this is not irregular. Like what every political analyst say, it's not irregular. This is how the Prime Minister has always won this seat. But I tell people, I'm going to tell you guys in the beginning that it has nothing to do with the Prime Minister's seat. They just got another reason to paint the picture that Andrew is corrupt. Them want to get as much accusation of corruption against Andrew. Why? Because when them affirm that in the Jamaican people mind, the people them will get frustrated and get out Andrew Wallace, because they know they can't do it. And this is just coming from my opinion with the information and how me I dissect the information. It points to that. Because the PNP know that they cannot get out the Andrew, they can't. And this 5 years I go just make him more cemented in as the government. So what them a do? Them a hope we the people get him out. And you see this propaganda work because there's a lot of people in Jamaica right now kill them dead that Andrew are the most corrupted politician. Painting the picture that this man corrupt without any tangible evidence. And that's how powerful propaganda is, and the PNP know this. Because you even see it when it comes to the rural school bus. You have kids out there that do not want to take the school bus because the propaganda reach them parents and then it reach the children that the buses are not safe. And at the same thing them a try to do with Andrew. Spreading propaganda, hoping that the people will turn against him and get him out. And that's why I came to the opinion that this is the PNP's end goal, to topple the government. Because all of the information point to that. Look at it. The Observer mission came to Jamaica, an international organization that responsibility is to oversee that election processes are done in a fair manner. They came to Jamaica and observed our election process and found our election process to be fair. Even go as far as saying that a lot of countries in this region can adopt our election process. This man came out and said in his press conference that the Jamaican people shouldn't believe the findings of the Observer mission, that they don't have all of the evidence. And this is not the only time this man try to hold down Jamaica, you know. When international bodies have praised Jamaica, you know. The IMF last year and other countries praise the Jamaican economy, telling other countries to model the Jamaican economy. You know what Mark Bolin did? They came out and said that the Jamaican economy is not in a good condition. Even went as far as to tell the Jamaican people that we in a recession. Tell me if this a man another weapon we farm against Jamaica. When other countries came to Jamaica and praised us for the low crime rate, Mark Bolin took the chance to tell the Jamaican people, discrediting the Prime Minister, that it's not the government who lowered crime, it was the JCF. So tell me people, if this a man now try topple the government, in my opinion, Who am I trying to do? Why work so hard to sell this propaganda narrative? Why? That because that is the only benefit him can get out of it. But blueprinters, as I said, this is my opinion. If you share the opinion or you have a next opinion, drop it in the comment section and we can discuss this further. Alright, Blueprint family, we come to the ending of another video. If you enjoyed the video, you already know what to do. Destroy the like button. Also, if you're a new viewer here, remember to subscribe and turn post notification on to get notified anytime I drop a new video. Also, remember to share the video with friends and family so they too can become a part of the Blueprint movement. Also guys, we as Blueprinters will live by 3 rules. Those rules are: keep grinding, keep hustling, and remember, success is in the blueprint. See you later guys. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.